Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. We hope you enjoy this evening's edition.
I'm Justin Kelley, business representative and organizer for Painters Local Union 195 of District Council 11, the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. This past Saturday, April 27th, we were proud to be a part of planning and hosting a Workers' Memorial Day observance that was held in Pawtucket behind the Hope Artist Village at a mill that was being renovated and is still being renovated. Back in October of this past year, on October 22nd, there was a horrific accident that occurred where the floor collapsed in the mill, sending 3 workers from the 3rd floor into the basement, pinning them in rubble. One of the workers was critically injured. We're still working to ascertain who these individuals are so that we can offer our support and ensure that they get justice where they were hurt on the job. The rally was an inspiring and powerful event, bringing together organized labor as well as community organizations, faith-based groups, people from a bunch of different walks of life coming together to say everybody deserves a safe job, because safe jobs are every worker's right.
We're going to hold a rally with some more speakers. So I want everybody in an orderly and calm and peaceful fashion to come with me here. We're going to march on down. So come on, brothers and sisters, let's march on down.
I had the privilege last summer to march with some of my brothers and sisters who were picketing against the injustices that they were experiencing at Rhode Island Hospital, and I was proud to support the nurses. I was proud a couple of weeks ago to stand with my brothers and sisters who work for Stop and Shop as they strove to obtain better opportunities for their families. I am a proud member of the Rhode Island AFT, retired. I am one of you. And it was a privilege 3 weeks ago to vote to support the firefighters who deserve better consideration for the work that they do. They deserve a safe workplace, as we all do. I was also honored to support legislation as a Republican, I will say, that ensures that the greenhouse contracts continue. We need to make certain that all workers receive all rights that they are entitled to. And so again, I am privileged and honored to be with you this morning, and I want to pledge to you that you have my full support and that I will continue to work on your behalf at the Rhode Island State House. Thank you very, very much.
Let's give it up to State Representative Jack Lyle. Yes! Proving that unions can work across the aisle. We stand together because a safe job, again, is every worker's right. All right? So, next up, I want to call up somebody who means a lot to me and talk about a little bit about safety in the workplace outside of construction. In a workplace that oftentimes maybe gets overlooked for what safety is. All right? So we're going to have Brother Pat Quinn from the SEIU 1199 come up and talk to us about safety in the workplace when it comes to health care and all the places that SEIU 1199 represents. So give it up,
All right, everybody good? Yeah. All right, thank you for being here. I just want to point out one simple thing that I got a couple of emails over the last couple of days leading up to the 28th as Workers' Memorial Day. Something jumped right off the page at me. In the entire history of OSHA, 99 cases where people have died. Only 99. 1970, what did Jim say? 1970. In decades, only 99 criminal prosecutions. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. People know how to build a safe environment. They know how to keep workers safe. It's not rocket science. It takes time. It takes training, which the building trades provide, which the apprenticeships get, which everybody knows is the right way to build, and everybody knows most injuries are preventable. We don't need to have any more injuries on the job. We need to slow down, not cut corners, treat people right, and do the right thing. When we build buildings or provide services, we should be on the job safe and coming home safe. That's my message on this day. I want to thank everybody for turning out. It's a super important issue, gets overlooked all the time. People are entitled to come home every day. Their family need them to come home every day intact. And that's something that often gets overlooked. We have a legislative piece on this, but we also just got to do the right thing at the job site, hold people accountable, and more importantly, when we have a situation like this where public dollars are being used to build buildings, renovate buildings, there got to be safe conditions on those buildings. I wish everybody in the labor movement a safe workplace, and find your way to build on this day today at the job site, because that's what it's going to take to win. Thank you, Justin.
All right, give it up for Pat Quinn from SEIU 1199. Yes. All right, so, look, I want you to go back to something that Jim Salenzi said. There's national legislation pending to reform the OSHA, reform the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And what Patrick just said, 99 cases since 1970 of a worker dying on the job and prosecuted. You know what that says to me? Bosses murder with impunity. A boss can murder you and get away with it. Say, I don't know, wasn't my responsibility. Pass the buck to someone else. I said, maybe that worker didn't know what they were doing. Maybe it's their fault. Is that okay with you?
No!
You go to work to die? No. We go to work to provide for ourselves and our families. And we work hard doing that. So we need to support those reforms on any level, including the national level, to ensure that we have safe workplaces. And that even more than that, we have the ability to say that we will not perform unsafe work.
Hey, Justin, what a great job. What a great job. Listen, all he does is work for us and for his members. So I'm Tim Byrne, I'm the business manager of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local 51. I'm also the vice president of the Rhode Island Building Trades. We have a very simple task to make sure you go to work in a safe condition and come home the same way you went. That doesn't happen here. It's not right not to happen here because we've chosen to work for a living. We're not going to be rich. We're going to work for a living. We're going to go in. We're going to come back the way we came, and hopefully we're going to have a nice little retirement. And then we move on and turn our trade to somebody else. And that's our job. And that's your job. So we have a homework assignment. I'll be nice and brief. We have a homework assignment. You need to go from here and talk to everybody you see, to your friends, your relatives, people you don't know in the grocery store, and you need to explain to them that people need to go to work in a safe environment. And when people like these owners who want to make the money, then they'll make it in a safe way with safe workers. And we'll come home to our families the same way, and we'll lead a nice, long, old life on our rocking chairs. That's what we're supposed to do. So that's our job. We're going to go and we're going to carry this message to everybody. We're going to say we need to go to work. We need to be safe. We need to keep our brothers safe. We need to keep our sisters safe. And we got to make sure that projects that get state money, projects that get tax agreements are done with union labor, prevailing wage, in a safe environment. That's our job. Thank you very much. Take that message from here.
Last weekend and this weekend, the Painters Union is having similar rallies from Cali to Detroit to Chicago to here. So thank you very much for showing up. But we're here for more than that, more than the painters, more than the building trades. Here's the deal. Every day in this state, and I say this with certainty, every day on a construction site in this state, someone is getting ripped off, someone is working unsafe, someone is working under conditions they should not be. We can take you for a ride, and within an hour of that ride, we can take you to 2 sites and find that. That happens every day, and that's just not right. People see these buildings, these great mills that we have, these beautiful architectural structures, these historical buildings. They get a tax break. They get money from the state. People watch, it gets done, it's a beautiful edifice. Everybody loves it, oh my God, they saved that mill. But no one cares about the workers who construct that mill, rehab that mill, and do that work. Everybody forgets about that period, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year. Why are we concerned about the workers? Why are we concerned about the conditions of the workers inside these beautiful buildings? That's gotta change. We're sick and tired of people getting handed money and they don't have to prove anything. They import workers, they exploit workers, they have workers work unsafe, they don't pay workers area standard wages. Well, how are we giving them money? How are we lining the pocketbooks of developers and contractors and getting nothing back? So we're here today, we're trying to change this, and you're all part of it. This is a new movement. Yeah, we don't want to let these buildings crash down. We don't want to let these buildings deteriorate. We want to rebuild these buildings. We want the workers that do that work, that hard, sweaty, hard hat work inside these buildings. We want them to get what they deserve, union or non-union. They deserve the right pay, they deserve safe conditions, and they deserve to get something back. So thank you very much. We're here for a couple of reasons. Solidarity, let me hear it. Solidarity! Workers' rights. Workers' rights! And safe jobs. Safe jobs! Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. My name is Jim Riley. I'll be your host tonight. Once again, we've got Dr. Okurowski.
Good to be back.
All right, great to have you. The last show we did was terrific. This is another issue that's very important to lots of people, especially here in New England. And what we're going to be talking about is Lyme disease. So it's we're right in the middle of our big tick season for the year. So give us a little primer on what we need to know and what we need to do about this very infectious disease.
It's a timely topic. There is at least some preliminary evidence that we had a sort of a, wet late winter, early spring, and there's lots of people reporting high incidence of tick exposure. And
well, how does that sort of wet, soft weather? How does that?
Well, what we believe is that's sort of the environment. Sometimes a warm, late winter wet is conducive to a high tick population. But what we're at least seeing is lots of people reporting exposures. And what we need to know is Lyme disease is really the most commonly reported tick-borne illness in the United States, and it's a disease with a pretty large scope. CDC estimates anywhere from 20 to 25,000, maybe upwards of 30 to 50,000 diagnosed cases. But there's also more and more evidence of underreported cases we're missing, and recent evidence suggests that the numbers may be much higher. And that means, all of us, both in the public and also the medical community, need to be, focusing more attention to this disorder.
Everybody knows somebody who's had Lyme disease.
Yeah, absolutely. And the goal here is not to create panic. It's more educated vigilance. And, we all like to encourage outdoor activity, whether that's, our kids or spending time in the woods, walking, or, outdoor activities like, golf and hiking. So we all have potential exposure. It's also not uncommon even found in urban and semi-urban environments, in brush, in parks. So it's not something that's no longer confined to just rural areas. It's clearly higher incidences in rural areas, but we all need to be aware that when we're outside and in the brush or in the grass, we need to be careful. And also, should be mentioned that some of the first cases come clearly from New England. Lyme, Connecticut is the reason why it's called Lyme disease. But some of the highest prevalences are also in our islands. Plum Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. Clearly see some high rates, and we have a lot of folks that spend some vacation time there, so those folks need to be aware of those issues too.
I wonder why the islands are more prevalent than
Yeah, there's lots of conspiracy theories on that one, but I sort of stick to some of the science. But there's lots of people with theories. We don't really know exactly where Lyme disease clearly came from, but everybody has their ideas.
Well, I grew up in Connecticut. And in Connecticut, they believe that the Animal Research Center out on Plum Island let something out of a cage, and it wound up getting into Lyme, and then it started Lyme disease.
I hear
that's
these.
That's the local folklore.
Right, I hear these. I don't necessarily think there's a lot of science to support that, but it's certainly an interesting story. But we clearly have seen an explosion of incidents, over the last 20 to 30 years, and it's spreading across the United States, and it's clearly in New England and Southwest is now seeing some cases. It's clearly being found in the Southeast. So it's something that may or may not have started in New England, clearly first recognized here, but now is not only a state issue, but also multi-state issue, but also now becoming more international, clearly into Canada and other regions. So it's something we all need to be aware of, and I would agree with you. Most of us know at least somebody, either in their immediate family or a friend or relative, that's been exposed to this. The good news is, caught early, it's quite treatable, but it's also preventable, and we'll start talking about some of those issues. It should also be mentioned, though, that it's something that employers and employees need to be more aware of, and we clearly see folks being exposed in the trades, in construction, landscaping, forestry, people doing land surveying, farming, railroad work, oil field work, utility line workers who all spend significant times outside need to be really aware of that.
I want to take a moment to talk about the actual tick itself. Now, from what I understand, ticks are born in nests, and after they're born, off they go and climb up somewhere, and instinct tells them, okay, sit tight and wait for a host.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want to get super technical here, but a lot of people do ask the questions. It should be important to emphasize that Lyme disease really is passed by a specific type of tick, and that's the black-legged tick. So that would be separate from your dog tick. And you'll see on the news and cards and on the internet, it's, you know, how to differentiate that. We'd like to minimize exposure to all ticks. But when we talk about Lyme disease, we need to make clear that we're really talking about what is called the black-legged tick and not the standard dog tick. And
Not the deer tick?
good question, good clarification. The black-legged tick is sort of synonymous with the deer tick. And the reservoir where these ticks live is really in small animals. It's actually found on mice, squirrels, and other small rodents. Deer get labeled because the nymphs, the small ticks, actually leave the mice and then grow to adults on large woodland animals like deer, but they also can be on other animals, raccoons, coyotes, and actually humans. And so that's where deer tick is sort of become synonymous with the black-legged tick in the eastern United States. Again, not to get too technical, but when you hear terms like deer tick or black-legged tick, they're essentially synonymous in the eastern United States, and that's the tick as opposed to the American dog tick. It's the black-legged or deer tick that causes or carries Lyme disease. And it's really the nymph that we're most concerned about. But again, the initial host is small animals like rodents, mice, and then these ticks grow and feed on larger animals, humans potentially being one source, or the deer. But getting back to that issue, that's important as families often ask, you know, for example, how can we help control our population in our own yard? It's really one of the hallmarks of minimizing exposure in the yard, separate from repellents, et cetera, is controlling the mouse population and the rodent population. And that's important to do. One of the very simple things that, for example, folks often don't realize is things like bird feeders being too close to the house. What happens is, you know, the birds come, drop the seed. What does the seed do? It attracts the mice. The mice, in particular, come close to your home, can increase the tick population in your yard. So one of the things that often specialists in this area recommend is if you're going to have, you know, bird feeders, et cetera, move things to the periphery if you're concerned about, you know, the tick population in fact in your yard.
That's something I didn't know. One of the producers of this program, Tom Carr, lives down in Charleston, Rhode Island, and out in the country, and he's got he could do a tutorial on how to survive living in tick land. But what are some things that folks can do? What are some, let's say, defensive things?
This is a hot topic, and one of the reasons why is
preventive maintenance, I guess you would say.
In preventing exposure, one of the clear issues we have is how to keep the ticks off you. And it's whenever you're outside, you need to do some major things with clothing. Keep skin areas covered. Light colored clothing works great. Keep often high socks. But the other issue is the use of repellents like DEET. And many individuals don't want to use DEET. Many people are scared.
Tell us about DEET.
Well, DEET is a highly successful repellent, and it does repel ticks. It's 20.
Where can you buy DEET?
You can buy DEET at any sporting goods shop, also any camping store. Many your CVS would carry it.
Oh, okay.
Many moms are concerned about the health effects of DEET on children. What we need to recognize, though, is if you really want to make sure you're going to repel those ticks, DEET is clearly the most effective. There are some natural products. Some may be effective. It's difficult to compare, though, to the effectiveness of DEET. One of the things that often folks do, though, is they wear protective clothing. There's also protectively treated clothing, permethrin-treated clothing you can find at a camping store. Those also have some repellent properties. All good ways to explore. What I tell folks with kids is if they're concerned, by all means, talk to your family practice provider. And it's clearly an area that if you're concerned, it should be voiced. But again, it needs to be recognized that Lyme disease is a serious illness, so you really need to protect yourself if you're going to spend some time out in the woods. So if you choose to be out there, you need to protect yourself, and many folks choose wrongly not to, and I think that's why we see a lot of the exposure. The other important thing we need to discuss is, once you've been outside in the woods, you need to have a systematic process for checking yourself. And what a lot of folks do is, fully take off their clothing. Many families do what's called a tick check. So they actually take the time to examine a child or other adult, make sure there's no ticks on them, make sure they shower appropriately, and really take that process to heart. Many families I know in wooded areas do that nightly, just to make sure if the kids have been out in the yard or exposed to the dog, they've really been systematic about that process. The other one is, if you have a family pet, you need to be concerned that the dogs can bring the ticks in, whether they're dog ticks or the deer ticks. So you need to really make sure that those dogs are checked. Cats can be possible exposure too. Many people don't like to hear this, but it also raises in the summer months. Sleeping with your pets, you need to make sure that your ticks are in fact free from, your dogs are in fact free from those ticks. So these are all issues that are really part of a systematic process for prevention.
Okay, let's get to this. Got just a couple of minutes left. Let's tell us about the symptoms and how people are going to know that they have.
The classic thing we've all heard of is the bullseye lesion.
Right.
Now, that's not 100% a guarantee that if you do or do not have a bullseye lesion, you're not exposed. But it's clearly a hallmark. If you do have a bullseye lesion that develops after a bite, you need to take it seriously and report it to your provider. But other issues that come up are things like fever, unexplained joint and muscle pains, headaches, chills, fatigue. Those are really the secondary hallmarks after exposure. So you need to be vigilant about those, and by all means report those to your healthcare provider, who can then do some blood tests. And the important thing to recognize is, with appropriate early detection, it's treatable with very basic antibiotics, and that's the good news. And so if you're concerned about it, by all means, talk to your family practice doc about it. And on the flip side, if you're in the workplace and you think you've been exposed, clearly talk to your safety and health professional, because I personally treat many in the construction outdoor trades where folks will be sent over to me to be examined because they potentially have been exposed.
Well, this has been a terrific show.
Thank you.
And I know that our regular listeners will probably, regular viewers have probably learned a lot about something that they think they know a lot about, but really needed to know. Dr. Okurowski, thank you so much for coming here today. This has been a terrific show. And that's it for this edition of Labor Vision. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.